Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Review and Breakdown for Stargirl Season 2. We are nearing the end of this season, just a few episodes left. Actually, after this episode, there's only 3 episodes left of the season, which is just absolutely insane. It feels like the season just started like a couple weeks ago, but now here we are towards the end of the season with episode 10, aka Summer School Chapter 10, which again, as I mentioned last week, still don't really know why we're calling it Summer School if we spent 1 or 2 episodes in Summer School, but whatever, let's keep going here. Because this was a wild episode. I mean, for the most part, it was pretty much like a tame episode, just going from beat to beat, just average episode, until you get to the last 10 to 15 minutes of the episode, and then it's boom, boom, bang, stuff is going down, and wow, the thing that happened at the end of this, I was not expecting, but I'm really excited to see how it plays out in next week's episode. But without further ado, spoiler warning if you haven't seen this episode yet. Again, Stargirl Season 2, Episode 10. And let's go ahead and jump into breaking down this episode. So we start off with another flashback, because that's what we do pretty much every episode here on Stargirl, this time decades ago. So we have Pat packing up his stuff from the JSA garage, just packing up to leave, because after Starman and the JSA killed Bruce Gordon, as Pat mentioned last week, that the JSA kind of disbanded after that. So he's packing up his stuff when Starman shows up, and he just apologizes for bringing Pat along for the murder, especially because he was so adamant that they not do it, but still brought him along anyway. And he kind of explains himself as well, because last week's episode gave us that vote that the JSA did to decide whether or not they should murder Bruce Gordon like the Shade told them to. And Starman was the deciding vote, and he said, yes, we should kill him. And his reasoning was, Eclipso threatened my family too. But then if you really think about it, what family does he have? Because, as mentioned in last season, he never had a daughter or a kid or anything like that. We have no idea if he had a spouse or anything like that. So, who's his family? Well, he reveals in this moment that the family that Eclipso threatened was Pat. And then they go on about chosen family, and I really like that. That was a nice little moment there, to see their relationship, especially after they had such a head-butting relationship in last week's episode. To see them come back together here in this part. But then that transitions us back to present day, where the Whitmore Dugans are still in this giant fight, until all of a sudden the Shade just crashes through their ceiling and tells them that they need to put the Black Diamond back together so they can stop Eclipso. And how are they going to do that? With the power of light. So he suggests, hey Courtney, use your staff to put the Black Diamond back together. So they try to do that, but unfortunately the staff is still not at 100% power. It's not strong enough to do that. So Pat comes up with another plan. They're going to go find Jennie so that her Green Lantern ring can fuse the Black Diamond back together. So while they do that, we catch up a little bit with Rick in prison, after we haven't seen him in a couple episodes now. So he's in prison now, and he wakes up to find a couple of apples on the cell floor, right next to his window, which obviously means that Solomon Grundy left those for him, because in that Grundy episode, we know that some of that was Solomon Grundy and some of it was not. Some of it was just Eclipso. And Rick probably had no idea what was going on there, whether that apple thing actually was true. But most likely this means that Solomon Grundy really did share an apple with Rick and that he is out there. But also, you'd think they'd have better security on this prison and not just allow something like Solomon Grundy to just walk by the prison, throw some apples in the window. I mean, just think about that right there. Anybody could throw anything in there. Bomb, knives, weapons, anything to help them escape. That's not very practical, but, whatever. Apples, that's not very dangerous, so I'll let it pass here. But then we also catch up with Beth, who, again, is dealing with her parents' divorce thing. And she actually goes to the Whitmore residence to watch over the Shade and kind of protect Mike and Barbara while Pat and Courtney are gone. And she actually gets a little bit of backstory on the Shade from Dr. McNider, who, we know is the real Dr. McNider, in the goggles, communicating to her through the Shadowlands. And Dr. McNider actually says that the Shade saved him the night that the ISA was attacking the JSA. So he saved him, but somehow he got trapped in the Shadowlands. And then he goes on to tell, again, the origins of the Shade, where it turns out he actually received his powers from the Black Diamond. So that's where it brings you back to, I think, episode 6, when Eclipso first showed up and, freed himself from Cindy. And that was the episode with the new ISA and all that stuff. Where Eclipso said to Eclipso, like, you're of my world, or like, your powers are of my world. So that's where it goes back to there. So I definitely thought that was pretty interesting, which makes sense because, with his powers, it makes sense that it's connected to the Shadowlands, especially a name like the Shadowlands. Now, before we get into talking about our main storyline here with Jennie and Pat and Courtney, I do want to mention this a little bit about Mike in this episode, because it was a very brief moment in this episode, but it's definitely setting up for some huge things, most likely in next episode, maybe the episode after that as well. With Mike, because he ends up going to Pat's garage and starts doing some work on Stripe, so good for him. And then all of a sudden he turns on the radio and hears reports of pink lightning, which of course means that the Thunderbolt pen is now in use. And we saw at the end of, I think it was episode 3, when Mike wished the Thunderbolt pen to go to a better user, that went to his friend Jakeem Williams, who in the comics becomes Jakeem Thunder. So now he is in use of the Thunderbolt pen. So Mike goes to investigate and finds a gingerbread house, but not just like a regular gingerbread house, a giant gingerbread house, literally a life-size gingerbread house, which is, well, not life-size, but like life-sized, like to live in, that kind of size. It was huge and probably very delicious, but this is not good because Jakeem needs to figure out how to use this stuff, and again, most likely we'll lead into this with next week's episode. So I'm definitely excited to see some more Thunderbolt stuff, because that was one of my favorite episodes at the beginning of the season. So then Pat takes Courtney back to his garage at the original JSA HQ. And I thought it was kind of weird how he mentioned, like, oh, I haven't been here in years. But didn't he literally take her to the JSA HQ last season? So, I mean, it hasn't been that long, has it? I don't know. But he realizes that Jennie has been staying there because they find, like, some newspapers and papers on the ground about her brother, Todd Rice. Because, of course, that is the reason that she left Blue Valley, is because she's looking for her brother. So they go to this rehabilitation center where they're looking for Todd. Well, they're looking for Jennie, but Jennie is looking for Todd. And Jennie was told that Todd left like a week ago. He was in prison and he was taken there like a week ago, but now he's gone. So then Jennie meets up with Courtney and Pat. They explain a couple things, and then they leave to go back to the JSA garage. But meanwhile, we get this really interesting setup here where after they leave, Nurse Love calls Dr. Bones and says not only that Todd has a sister, which apparently is something they didn't know, but she also specifically says, I told them Todd wasn't here. So does that mean that Todd actually is there? I think so. And this is actually some huge setup for Todd Rice, again, Jennie's brother, because in the comics, he actually becomes a superhero as well. Jennie becomes Jade, aka Green Lantern, and Todd goes on to become Obsidian. This is a character we actually saw previously in the Arrowverse on DC's Legend of Tomorrow as Obsidian in Season 2 as a part of that version of the JSA. So, Nurse Love, I think, is a gender-bent version of a character from the comics. And then we have Dr. Bones here, who is the leader of Helix Group. And this is, again, some huge characters in connection to Todd Rice in the comics, which, like I said, there's only 3 episodes left of the season, so I doubt we're going to really get into it too much here. But this is definitely some huge setup for Season 3, which Stargirl was already renewed for Season 3 back before Season 2 even started. So I'm really excited to see that, especially if we get to see Obsidian, because, he was already cool on Legends of Tomorrow, but with the budget and the writing and everything on Stargirl, I think Obsidian would be even cooler. But then, like I said, they go back to Pat's garage, and Jennie reforms the Black Diamond. It was a lot easier than you think it'd be, but meanwhile, Beth is currently learning more about the Black Diamond, and that's where she finds out that, we need to stop them from restoring the Black Diamond, but unfortunately didn't work because they still restore it anyway, because the Shade lied to them. Restoring the diamond will not be able to trap Eclipso. It actually connects our world to the Shadowlands, allowing the Shade to get his powers back. So he is all up and giddy and everything, and he's got his powers back. He's all healthy and everything, and he's like, I'm out, and sorry I betrayed you, Barbara. But on top of that, if things couldn't even get any worse, it also summons Eclipso. So Eclipso is now summoned, and we get this crazy ending cliffhanger where Courtney, because her staff is not at full power, she gets absorbed into the Shadowlands. And that is where the episode ends. And it was such a crazy moment that you weren't expecting, but it does confirm, like, no, she's not dead. The same thing happened to Cindy a couple episodes ago, and that was the big question. Is she dead or is she alive? Well, based off the promo, not only is she alive, but we get to see so many other characters in there as well, which is going to be really interesting. And I guess, spoiler alert if you don't want to know about these characters and if you didn't already see the promo, but we also saw the Xerics, both William and, I forgot the son's name, but his son and his wife, who all three of them are dead in real life. And then we also got to see Dragon King. So I'm really interested to see how they explain it, because those characters are dead, but Cindy and Courtney are not. Or are they now dead? I mean, if they are, then this is basically kind of like a whole afterlife thing. And if that's the case, then I mean, like, hey, DC just has like a big thing for the afterlife, because we literally just got that twice a couple of weeks ago on the same day with a new episode of Titans Season 3 and Doom Patrol Season 3, where in both of those, they also visited the afterlife. So we're doing that here again in Stargirl. Man, DC just loves doing the whole afterlife thing. And also, I'm assuming that this will connect back to the original Dr. Charles McKnight. This is most likely the Shadowlands where he has been trapped, so most likely we're going to run into him and hopefully bring him back into the real world along with both Courtney and Cindy, and who knows who else. But I'm definitely really excited to find out. So guys, for now, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about the brand new episode of Stargirl Season 2, Episode 10. Let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe